So I'm Ron J. Williams. I run a company called Knodes, K-N-O-D-E-S. And there we go. Don't you clap. Don't you jinx me. Don't you jinx me. And I'm going to be talking today about the sort of concept that Sarah started kind of alluding to, which is the idea that we're sort of lean. We're kind of lean. Knodes specifically focuses on freakishly productive word-of-mouth marketing, leveraging this really simple idea that if we can figure out who the right faces are to show your customers at the right places in your funnel, we can actually get them to sell you better than you can sell yourself. And it's a really simple idea. And we've made tons of mistakes. We've got customers now. We've hit some important milestones recently. But again, we've made tons of mistakes. And so what I find is kind of as I was thinking through what it is that we do and how we do it and how we get better, it's not so much that we are perfectly lean, as Sarah alluded to, but we are in fact kind of like, working out, trying to get rid of the pouch around the middle. We're a little curvy, we're a little big boned, but we're working at it. And so these are the hashtags that I'll be sort of talking to today, obviously lean startup and kind of lean. The story of how we came to be is pretty interesting, probably best told over whiskey, lots and lots of whiskey, so we can discuss that later. But I've asked myself this question a lot over the past few years, and that question is, what is my job? And I think naturally for me, the best fit when I think about that question is, I'm an idea guy. I'm the non-technical co-founder in a technical organization. And that's kind of a weird thing to be, but I've always been pretty good at seeing opportunities where other people did not. You may wonder what the hell this picture is. When I was 8 years old, some taller, older kids, when we were on our way to the apple orchard for an apple picking trip, I was challenged to pick the best apples by the teachers when these kids were poking fun because I was shorter and skinnier. And instead of being daunted, I went home and built a bolo inspired by Thundercats out of string and cardboard circular material. I won. But the fact of the matter is that doesn't hold up as a job for the startup that I'm running. In point of fact, I have to be the person that focuses our ideas, that keeps us ever thinking about marching all in the same direction. And so what I realized is that if for me, I'm naturally an idea guy, an area of improvement is continuing to focus, and that means that I've got to know myself well enough to be comfortable sharing that with my team. So I take this quote from Hamlet to sort of reinforce this idea that where we kind of wound up was we had to be honest with ourselves in order to get better about what we were good at, what we were bad at, where we were strong, where we needed improvement. Because I think really what the lean startup movement is sort of bubbled to the top is, it's not that we love data for data's sake, it's that data gives us a notion of truth. The substrate of the lean startup movement is truth. And so the most truthful thing in many ways that you can be as you sort of try to run your organization or participate in building is be truthful about what you're good at, what you're bad at. Because we're all different, right? We all know this. We all heard of ectomorphs, mesomorphs, endomorphs. If you don't know what they mean, I am not an ectomorph, as a for instance, right? But the important thing about knowing your body type is not just that you know if you can fit in the skinny jeans or not, it's actually so you can know the kind of regimen that you should be pursuing to meet your fitness goals if you're talking about real life, or your startup's goals if you're talking about your team's life, right? And so that's what I sort of take away from this slide, and I think smarter people than me are starting to sort of see this and talk about it in the public. The Startup Genome Project is all about what are the different attributes, characteristics, and conditions under which teams can succeed, right? So we're seeing this being talked about. If you know yourself, if you know what you're good at, if you know where you're strong, you can set up a regimen that works for you. You can make it easier for you to succeed. Build, measure, learn for everything is the first takeaway I've had over the past few years. This may actually be repetitive, frankly, because I was blown away by how many people are taking these ideas and applying them not necessarily just to their product development cycles, not just to their tech building. But that's what I was doing. That's what I sort of saw dogmatically happening. I'm from New York. I'm from the city. I saw these conversations really being all about product development. That meant that I wasn't necessarily accounting for my time appropriately as a person selling, as a person trying to position us, as a person doing customer discovery and development. And it was really interesting. A thing happened to me where I figured out that I had to actually be applying the same or similar metrics to how myself and my sales org were actually going out talking to customers. Is this a customer that's going to be a high-stakes customer? In other words, what we're doing is on strategy for them. So there's fidelity of implementation, they're all in. Is it high dollars? Is it high volume? Are they going to pay us a lot? Is the amount of data we get out of it going to be significant and help us get to the next decision point? So all of a sudden I realized we need actually to apply build, measure, learn, even the way we're applying build, measure, learn. Otherwise you get lopsided startup muscles and nobody wants that. That guy is a real guy, by the way. Freaky, freaky real guy. Not Photoshop, I kid you not. So the other big thing I've realized is crash diets don't work. Who here has tried a crash diet before? Be really honest. A little bit, right? Big event, wedding coming up, reunion, right? Now, when I say they don't work, it's not that they don't work, they do work. It's just a month later, 95% of people have gained the weight back, 50% of those people have gained more than the weight back. It breaks your body, it messes with your insulin. You do the same thing with your team, right? When you walk in and you're like, you do something like this. Hey guys, happy Monday. We're gonna be a lean startup now. I did this. I did this. And here's the great irony. I have an amazing co-founder, John Goodwin, my technical co-founder. He'd been telling me about Steve Blank, and he'd been telling me about Eric Ries for a few months. We've been, for years, really, we've been talking. And so how funny is it when I walk in and I'm like, yeah, so now we're gonna do this to him and the rest of our team, right? It's kind of funny. Except I hadn't yet put in place for us, kind of like working out, a sustainable program. I hadn't necessarily changed and rejiggered my assumptions, gotten buy-in from the different parts of my team so that we could all be on the same exact page to do this in increments, right? Do this in a way that was gonna be sustainable, not a crash diet, but in a way that actually let us transform ourselves in the long run. That sucked, and it didn't work. I think we got through a sprint and a half before it was like, okay, back to the drawing board. We had to actually make a bigger investment. Because changing bad habits is actually really, really, really challenging. There's this wonderfully visual commercial. I think might be a Nike commercial. There's a guy, he's kind of jumping through the air. He's rolling into his gear. It's really beautifully shot. And it says, working out is easy if it's convenient. And I think there's something powerful to that idea that you have to set yourself up for, we had to set ourselves up for success. We had to actually, you've already heard me talk about knowing myself, knowing what I'm good at, what I'm bad at, knowing what's on my team, who's on my team, who's really strong at leading Scrum, who's really strong at helping me go out and validate assumptions with customers. The other piece of it is saying, if I know that when I go out and drinking itself is not the problem, it's 2 o'clock in the morning when I've got a pizza in one hand and a shawarma in the other, right? That's not that hard to change, it's not impossible. I should probably do coffee or lunch for my meetings, not have them start at 6 o'clock at happy hour. I'm telling these self-effacing stories to be really honest with you guys about the fact that this stuff is not rocket science, but it's also, you're not impervious to bad decision-making just because you embrace the lean startup methodology, and that's kind of what I'm driving home. So in a work sense, we actually had a similar situation where we were finding that our weekly kickoff meetings were running long. And our team meetings that myself and my co-founder meet, and then we meet the rest of the team every Monday to kick off the week, we weren't getting to everything we wanted to get to. And we wondered why that was. And then I realized, as I was observing how we were spending our time, I was accounting for how we were spending our time in our meeting, I realized that I kept throwing, because I'm a frenetic thinker, I kept throwing things at him on the fly in the meeting. The reason why we work well together is I'm a crazy guy, and he's this very deliberate, very methodical, very skeptical thinker. So if we've only got a half an hour to chat on a Monday morning, why would we spend 15 minutes talking about stuff that I had just come up with? Problem solved, really small thing that we could fix. I send him an email. Here are the things I'm thinking that we know about. How did we do last week? Here's some new ideas, synthesize. We'll talk at 9. Small fix. And sometimes that's not enough. Bad habits are hard enough to correct that sometimes if you know you have a gaping hole in your competencies, you need to get help. Kind of like a creepy guy looking over your shoulder, right? You need somebody to, it is the worst picture in the world. I couldn't find the one that I really wanted. So you need to get help, right? And what I mean by this is this could be knowing, again, that you have a gaping hole that needs to be filled with an advisor, somebody with domain expertise that can really take you to task on how you're approaching customers or how you're approaching your build cycles or whatever. But getting that help is important. And it can help you get over the hump. It can help you stay focused. And it'll help you kind of get to this most important question, I feel like, which is how lean is lean enough? I think at the end of the day, none of us are here, much like working out, none of us are here just to work out. None of us are here just to be lean. What is my real goal? Do I want a 6-pack like I had in college? There's no chance that's coming back. Maybe a 4.5-pack. No chance. Or do I want to be flexible, fast? Do I want to have good cardio? Do I want to be able to whoop my kids' butts in foot races until they're old enough to, I guess go to college on a scholarship or something? Who knows, right? The question is, what do I really want for my startup? What do I want? Well, it turns out, and I don't want to start a riot in here, being lean is not actually our goal. And that's what we found through these cycles of just rigorously kind of trying to look at ourselves and figure out what we do well, what we do poorly, what we could do better. The fact of the matter is everything that comes out of pursuing being lean, all the externalities are wonderful, but the real goal for us is to actually have fun creating something that matters. In our case, we're focused on taking social data, making discovery, customization, customer acquisition way better than it is today. That's our actual goal, having fun along the way, enjoying each other, creating value for our customers, creating value for our investors. That's our goal. And so I think, and I mean, I'm, again, totally insistent that this is, I've been so amazed. Somebody was talking last night about BML for PR, BML for marketing, and not everybody is talking about it this way. The seed of this for me was I saw so much dogmatic conversation around this, people holding it up like the 10 Commandments. And while I think this is it's an amazing movement and a set of resources and people around it that are helping to drive just thinking that is creating better and better companies, better and better teams, better and better professionals, it's just not enough. We can't stop with the dogma. And I think what you find is that when you take all these resources, you take all this good thinking, and you put it together, it's still being implemented by imperfect people like us, myself. I won't put you guys in the same category of imperfection. But I'm still implementing this. And so it means it's got to be subject to judgment. I didn't make this up. The guy wrote the book, literally. He said this. And it's true. I've got to have room to know myself well enough, accept myself and my team for what we have and don't have, and then work around that. So maybe we're comfortable taking a leap and building a platform without, to a certain degree, without some customer validation. Maybe that's where we feel strong because we've got market understanding and technical chops. You got to know yourself well enough, I feel like, to make those decisions for yourself. And then let's all agree to be a little curvy, get our asses in the gym, work out, and build good stuff.